And so it's kind of a ghost story, and it's a story of this guy's evolution of his consciousness. And it also, for academics, it also tells you basically the kind of progression of fairy tales and how we do modern fairy tales. And so as we get closer to the end of the book, the fairy tales become part of this guy's life. Initially, they're just stories on that table that he either reads or the woman tells him. But then suddenly he goes out into the real world and people start telling him stories. And they just, you know, people that he meets at a cafe will suddenly start telling him a fairy tale, and it kind of goes into what his life is. And so it gets strange. So this, and lovely, I think. So this is towards the end of the book, and he's really freaking out because he thinks he's insane. And there's a tornado bearing down on him, and he freaks out. And so he freaks out, and he figures he has to go towards the tower to somehow find safety. So this story is 31 pages long, so I'm going to have to really condense it. How much? So you're missing a lot of pre and a lot of after. You're just going to get a taste because Deltina said I should say a little bit about the interstitial story and a little bit about the fairy tale stuff. In this particular story, tornadoes possess a cunning intelligence, mercurial and perverse. Like a vicious feline assassin, they stalk their victims with professional disinterest and an unrelenting determination to claim whatever payment their unseen master is owed. A tornado wants what it wants, and nothing else suffices. It will leave a baby in a tree, safe, unscathed, a half a mile from where the baby was ripped from her father's arms. The father is left impaled on a utility pole, a broom handle rammed through his heart, in a surgical precision unmatched by human skill. The Arabs believed tornadoes were demons, jinns, dark messengers of the gods, who screamed out of the western deserts, the land of the dead, on missions of repossession. They fed on the righteous as well as the sinner. Their victims were the gods' victims, and since no one knew how the gods cast lots, no amount of praying could guarantee safety. Fear of the jinns was the source of the ancient injunction against giving a stranger your name. A stranger could be a jinn in disguise. Jinn comes from genie, genie from jinns. In disguise, sent by a jealous god to steal your soul, to reclaim what had been lent. They were feared, but they were also holy, for sometimes it was Jehovah who spoke out of the whirlwind. Regardless, they were the executors of an unknown judgment against which no one could appeal. We all both dread and invite such judgment. Perhaps it's the idea that we have been gifted with something beyond our means, with a special kind of life, a consciousness, a knowledge somehow incomplete and therefore perhaps stolen, not quite ours to keep. If it were ours, would we not have it whole and forever? Of course, we hope not to be snatched away, and sometimes may even act surprised when we are. But somehow we know that whatever happens, no matter our cries of expediency, we get what we deserve. We are somewhere deep down the guilty thieves that we perceive ourselves to be. Mutable, transcendent intelligence giving us what we think we deserve. That's why tornadoes terrify us, why they fascinate us. We seem to come closest to experiencing the unspeakable power of the divine through our contact with inexplicable and terrifying destruction. In fully experiencing the relentless power and intelligence of a messenger of death, we know to our very core that there is something miraculous occupying the universe. Something beyond the dry numbers game of science. And in that undeniable knowledge, there lies hope for even the vilest of thieves. Violent, mutable, and intelligent. If a tornado can change course, so can we. Thieves to kings, kings to gods. Sometimes in my dreams, a twister would land beside me, a Jacob's ladder fallen from a wordless heaven. I would strain to understand its silent spinning, see a way into and through its impenetrable, inhuman walls, find a foothold to climb up and ask what its demon name might be, what it wanted of me, of the human race. I had encountered them so often over the years that my respect for them was great, but somehow over these past few weeks, I had come to feel less fear when they approached. For some perverse or brave or insane reason, I was compelled to extend my hand to them. Literally, extend my hand, my open, turned-up palm to a tornado spinning in a black fury right in front of me. Twice, one obliged me and hopped onto my palm. It spun there, soft, cool, amazingly light. I even juggled it from palm to palm like a clown with a broom handle act. It was alive. I unmistakably sensed that it enjoyed the playing. Whatever its motivation, it clearly engaged me. It also wanted to tell me something. I could feel an energy directed toward me, a primitive urgency, a moaning. But it was so alien. I was so alien. How could such a gap be bridged? When I played with the second one, there was no deaf-mute attempt at verbalizing. Instead, I was absorbed into its skin, or rather, it enveloped me at once like an amoeba surrounding a mote of food. I momentarily entered a clear, liquid void, calm, enchanting, I would like to say. But ultimately, the nature of its qualities I couldn't grasp. There wasn't time, where time wasn't an issue. I was almost immediately thrown into another dream. I had been invited into a very special place, but in my clumsiness had boorishly squandered my opportunity. I had violated a holy place. I had been brave and clever, but also arrogant and naive. My indiscretion had been answered with nothing but a quick trip through an inverted black hole. Still, I felt lucky. Such sacred transgressions often end in death or madness. As far as I know, I'm in neither realm, but that's a judgment call. 2 days later, in another dream, the tension's killing you, I know. I watched from the sidewalk of a crowded, narrow city street as a white vortex touched down beside an idling yellow cab. It came down so fast and with such intelligent authority that I was utterly petrified. The tornado extended into the twilight sky and seemed to be infinite black space itself, transformed and poured down into a single, intensely bright point of white, whirling light. In a swirling instant of interdimensional transformation, the maelstrom turned into a dark-haired, elegantly dressed woman. Regal, haughty, perhaps even a little frightened behind her cold, reserved expression. She was already walking when she flashed from tornado to her human form. She stared straight ahead, unblinking, completely oblivious to me and the several gawking pedestrians gathered on the other side of the street. The cab door on the street side opened without a word from her, and she slipped onto the back seat. Impulsively, I jumped in the cab beside her. There was so much I wanted to ask her. I had been unable to talk to the playful black hole wind, but a beautiful woman? I could talk to a beautiful woman. Inside the cab, she continued to stare straight ahead. The cab didn't move. I gazed into her powder white face, dumbstruck with the closeness of her unearthly beauty. Such beauty. I was filled with light and emptied of all heaviness. My being was totally enthralled. Love, ecstasy, absolute joy. The feeling was ethereal. I was floating on the moon, floating. My God, how to express the infinite magnitude of my heart's utter bliss, the warmth, the coolness, the sweetness, the ache, the hungering fulfillment, and all in a glance, alone with a tornado enfleshed, a goddess fallen from heaven, an archetype in a city cab. I was alone with God in a cab, and she slowly turned her face to look into mine. A faint smile crossed her lips, and she waited. She waited for me to say something. I had no idea what to say. Okay.